Good morning.
What they're paying for.
That's right.
Who's the producer?
Today's broadcast is being sponsored by SHMIEL URMAN Family, and in the schus that all those who are ill should have a refuah shleima, and all those who are well should stay well and stay healthy.
Amen.
Also being sponsored by Reb Mordechai Tzvi Lebovitz and his family in the schus of keeping everybody safe and healthy, with a special bracha to Reb Akiva Balter, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ben Shimon and his family, bkol toiv, mikol toiv. CHAIM ZVI, please remind me what the last part that I missed out yesterday was. In the sponsorship for Akiva.
I will allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu to figure out how to give him parnasa and keep everybody healthy at the same time.
Amen. Keep the winds blowing in both directions. That's right. And are the Tenenbaum still sponsors, or that was just for yesterday?
No, that's today, the whole week. They're also sponsored.
And MEYER TENENBAUM is sponsoring the broadcast with nishmas, our dear Hershel, Reb Mordechai Tzvi, and Dov Dovid, whose Yartzeit was yesterday. Did everybody remember to say Kiddush Lavona yesterday?
Yeah.
No.
Did anyone get a text from Ari Stoltzman? I got a text from Ari Stoltzman to remind me to say Kiddush Lavona.
We're gonna post it, right, Akiva?
Yeah, we are. I think the Rav says a hiddur. I check it with the Rav first. The hiddur is Matzai Shabbos, really, if you can, as opposed to Zion. It's Litvish to try to say it earlier. Zion is the earliest you can say it, but Matzai Shabbos is ideal.
Yeah, but in the winter time, they're not makbid.
Right. I know.
Litvish do it on Dalit.
Yesterday I was all by myself. Someone told me Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem.
They do the same thing.
Yeah.
But the Rav said that the reason
Here, I'll send.
The Rav said that the reason why it's the hiddur is Motzei Shabbos is because we're supposed to do it with a minyan. We're supposed to do it with people, but now that there's no minyan, it makes no difference when we do it. Meaning we should actually do it earlier. Is that not the case?
No, Motzei Shabbos is an Indian.
Yeah.
What I remember,
you're supposed to go from mitzvah to
Shabbos
mitzvah.
is an Indian because you're dressed up for Shabbos.
That's right. That's also the Indian too. That's
I just
Not to do it,
posted,
you're
I
hungry.
posted about Shalom Aleichem. The result says you're supposed to say it because it's really singing to the moon.
Okay, do you say Aleichem Shalom?
Yeah. Well, you say Aleichem Shalom even when you're talking to somebody else. You're supposed to answer Aleichem Shalom as well.
That's right.
Kids are always telling me about the man on the moon.
No one's there to laugh at you anyways, Dovi.
Okay, so let's see. Today's Gemara is a little complicated because it turns everything that we learned yesterday on its head. So just to refresh our memories, yesterday we had two opinions. We had the opinion of Rava and the opinion of Abaye. Abaye said that Reb Shimon ben Lazar and Tony Zveir Shmuel both agree that all tumas, whether it's tumas nega or whether it's tumas shratzim, only apply to begadim that are either tzemer or pishtim, and no other beged. And everybody also agreed that even a beged, as Akiva says, is an incy teensy wincy, even a small beged that's about 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches is a beged that could be makabel tumah. But the Gemara said that Rava felt that Reb Shimon ben Elazar said that if you have a beged that's much larger, it's 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, or let's say 12 inches by 12 inches, Rava learns that Reb Shimon ben Elazar would agree that even begadim, fabric made out of any species, any min, would also be able to contract Tuma Shrotzim, if it was touched by a sheretz, it would become Tamei if it's larger than 3 Tvachim by 3 Tvachim. And the
Is this a dead sheretz or even a live sheretz?
A dead sheretz.
That's got to be a dead sheretz.
It has to be dead, yeah. So the Gemara was looking for a mikor. Where do you find? Because the Gemara found sources for everything, and then the last step of the Gemara yesterday was to find a source according to Rava that Reb Shimon ben Elazar would be able to use to show from the Torah that other fabrics, if they're larger in size, they'll be Mekabel Tumah. And right at the beginning of our Amud Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, the pasuk that they found was Oy Beged, which is mentioned in the parsha of Tumash Shrotzim. And from the Oy Beged, we learn the Tanya Beged, Ainli Elo Beged. What about Shloisha al Shloisha B'shar Begadim Minayin? What if I have a piece of fabric that's 12 by 12 inches or 3 Tvachim by 3 Tvachim? And even though it's not made out of Temer and Pishon, what if it's made out of something else? How do I know that that also will have the halachas of Tumah? Talmud Leimer, Oy Beged. Now Abaye learned that nobody holds like this. According to Abaye, there's never a time where other fabrics are tummy, even if they're shloisha. So he now has the Oy Beged that he has to find a chiddush for it. Abaye, hi Oy Beged, my ovidley. What's Abaye going to do with the extra word of Oy Beged mentioned in the Parsha of Shrotzim? So Kumar mi boyele l'rabish sholosh al sholosh b'tzemer upishtim, the metama b'shrotzim. You needed to tell you that even a smaller beged, 2 inches by 2 inches, like 3 fingers by 3 fingers, that it will be tamei even by temer and pishtim by shrotzim. Now the problem is, yesterday we had a whole Gemara saying that by tumas tzaras it says beged temer and pishtim, and we say that that's a binyanav to everywhere in the Torah, that whenever it says beged it means temer and pishtim. Yet here Abaye is saying that the fact that we already know by neged tzaras that a beged means temer and pishtim, that doesn't help us for tumas shrotzim. We need our own limud by tumas shrotzim to tell us that a 3 by 3 of temer and pishtim is tamei. Now Rava says you don't need it. Gali rachmon gabi negoyim. Once the Torah tells you by negoyim that a beged that's 3 inches by 3, that's 3 fingers by 3 fingers is tamei, well then who adin l'shrotzim? I can use a binyanav to say that if the Torah says that the halacha by negoyim is that a 3 by 3, 3 fingers by 3 fingers is makabel tumah, so then I could figure out automatically with a binyanav that halacha applies to shrotzim. So I don't need Oy Beged for it. So I can use Oy Beged to refer to begadim that are made of other fabrics that are 3 Tvachim by 3 Tvachim. But Abaye says no. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to learn the halacha by shrotzim from the halacha of tumas negoyim because there's a difference. Ikol amifrach mal negoyim shekin chesi ve'erev metam bem. Negoyim have a very big chumrah. Even threads alone will be makabel tumas negoyim. Sheretz, it has to be a beged. It has to be something that's at least woven. So maybe since if the Torah tells us by negoyim that a small little beged that's only 3 fingers by 3 fingers could be makabel tumas negoyim, I wouldn't necessarily know that halacha by tumas shrotzim. That's why I need Oy Beged by tumas shrotzim to teach that to me. But Rava, who holds I would be able to learn shrotzim from the goyim, he says isol kedaitach that the goyim chamiri. If in fact the goyim are more chamer, well then why did the Torah tell us all this information by the goyim? The Torah should have written all of the information about the 3 fingers by 3 fingers by shrotzim, the lesson the goyim inayu, and then we would have learned the goyim from shrotzim. And the fact that the Torah said it by the goyim clearly shows that the Torah doesn't consider there to be a difference between tumas negoyim and tumas shrotzim, and it applies to both. Therefore, Rava has this extra Oy Beged to use to teach us that other fabrics, if they're 3 Tvachim by 3 Tvachim, don't turn it. Abaye says no. You need a special limud for 3 fingers by 3 fingers, both by shrotzim and by negoyim, because negoyim is shrotzim al yasu. You wouldn't be able to learn shrotzim from the goyim, and you wouldn't be able to learn the goyim from shrotzim. Shrotzim from the goyim you can't learn because we said nega is more chomer, because even the thread will become tummy. But the goyim you can't learn from shrotzim because shrotzim also has a chomer. The ikalamifrech mala shrotzim shekei metama b'chadosha. A sheretz will be metama if if it's even as small as an adosha, which is a tiny little bean. Masha enkein, by nedoyim, it has to be a gris, which is 9 times the size of an adosha. So since shrotzim have a chumrah, if the Torah would only tell us by shrotzim that a beged that's 3 by 3 can become tamei, you would not necessarily export that information to the beged. Now we finished the first approach to the sugya. So the first approach to the sugya again is that according to Abaye, everybody agrees that there's no tumah on any other begadim besides semer and pishtim, no matter how big that beged is. And Rava, according to one Tana, according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, holds that there's one dissenting opinion that holds that a larger begadim, 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, even of other fabrics, will be mitam. Now the Gemara is going to turn everything over and have different options. Omer Abaye, Hi Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel that we're quoting in our sugya, that says unequivocally that there's no tumah on any other beged besides semer and pishtim, mapich ma'idich Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. There's another Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel that contradicts this one, that actually indicates that you could have other minim will have tumah as well. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, beged, ein li elo beged semer upishtim. From the fact that it says beged, I would have only known a beged of semer and pishtim, because that's the precedent by nega. Minayin l'rabbis semer gemalim, semer arnovim, wool of a camel, wool of a rabbit, noitah shel izim, the little fibers that they get out of goats, vashirayin, vakalach, vasrikin, all different types of fabrics that are not semer and not pishtim. How do you know they also could become tamei? Talmud loimer oy beged. So you see that there is a Devei Rabbi Shmuel who actually had the same limud that Rabbi used earlier for Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and he's using oy beged to tell you that any other fabric will also be able to be mekabel tumah, which is a complete opposite of what the other brisa that we quoted earlier of Devei Rabbi Shmuel. Now let's just chazer over that earlier brisa because it's going to come into play, and we might as well refamiliarize yourself with it. So at the top of Chav Vav Amud Beis is the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel that we learned yesterday that says unequivocally no other begadim are tamei besides semer and pishtim. And what was it? It was as follows: Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, Hoyel v'nemru begadim b'Torah stam. It says the word beged all over the Torah. Uparet loch hakosov be'echad men semer pishtim. And by nega, it clearly says that it means a beged semer or a beged pishtim. Mala halon semer pishtim af kol. So the af-kol is what we're going to be focusing on now. The pashtus of the way we're learning now is af-kol. So too, any other tumah, such as tumah shrotzim, will only impact begadim that are made out of temer and pishtim. Right? That's how we learned until now. So this Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel says that both for tumah shrotzim and for tumah nega, it only applies to temer and pishtim. And now we have this new brisa that we just quoted from Rabbi Shmuel that Abaye brought down that says, in fact, from oy beged, which it's mentioned, oy beged by the parsha of Tumas Shrotzim, is including all these other species, Tzemer Gmalim, Tzemer Novim, Noitah shel izim, Shiran, Kalach, and Srikin. So now Abaye brought one new piece of information to the mix, that this Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, who we thought was so unequivocal about the fact that only Tzemer and Pishtim can become Tamei, you should know there's other versions of Rabbi Shmuel that says exactly the opposite. Rava wants to comment on that as well. Rav Amar ki leslei lahach Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel b'shar begadim sholosh al sholosh. The Rabbi Shmuel that we learned on Chavav Amud Beis that said that the only type of begadim that can be mekabel tumah anywhere are temer and pishtim. Rabbi Shmuel was only referring to small begadim that were 3 fingers by 3 fingers. But shloisha al shloisha, if it was a larger beged, islay, the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel would hold of that. Now, this is exactly the opposite of what Rava said earlier, and that's what the Gemara challenges with. For Rava Huda Amar, Rava said on Chavav Amud Beis that shloisha al shloisha b'shar begadim, if you have a larger piece of fabric by other begadim, the Reb Shimon ben Elazar islay. Only according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar is there that exception that a larger beged of another fabric would also be mekabel tumah. But the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel Lesley, Rava, you yourself said that the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel holds that there's no exception to this rule, and only Beged Semer and Beged Pishtim could ever become Tameh, no matter what Tameh we're talking about. Now Rabbi seems to be saying that Tony Rabbi Shmuel is agreeing that larger begodim would become Tameh even if they're made out of things other than Semer and Pishtim. So Gemara, you're right. It is a contradiction in Rava. Hard to be Rava Me'ahi. We'll have to say that Rava changed his mind from when he said that the Rabbi Shmuel holds there's no exception to the rule. And in fact, larger begodim that are 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, Rava agrees that even the Rabbi Shmuel agrees that it will be mekabel tumah. Or maybe you could say that what we just quoted from Rava, that other begodim would become tameh, even according to the Rabbi Shmuel, it's a mistake. It wasn't Rava who said that. Harav Papa Amar. It's Rav Papa who said it. The Rav Papa Amar af kol la'asuye klai. So now we can go back to the Bryce and Chachafavim base, where we just reviewed that the Rabbi Shmuel said, just like by nega teras, the Torah when it says beged, it means only tzemer and pishtim. Af kol, so too everything else is tzemer and pishtim. Until now, we were translating af kol, meaning so too all other tumas, such as tumas sheretz, is also limited to tzemer and pishtim. Rav Papa says, no, that's never what Rabbi Shmuel meant when he said af kol. When he said af kol, just like by tumas negoyim, it only applies to tzemer and pishtim, so too everywhere else, it's referring to only tzemer and pishtim. That's l'suya klayim. He was talking about klayim. So he was never referring to tumas shrotzim. Tumas shrotzim is not limited to tzemer and pishtim at all. The af kol that Rabbi Shmuel said that only applies to tzemer and pishtim is klayim. That shatnez is only from tzemer and pishtim. So now it's a whole different story. Based on a Papa, Rashi tells us, you don't have to make anymore a distinction between a beged that's 3 fingers by 3 fingers or 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim. Rava, who has a Dovei Rabbi Shmuel that says explicitly it only applies to Temer and Pishtim, and then he has another Dovei Rabbi Shmuel who says it applies to other begodim, he had to say that the Dovei Rabbi Shmuel that says it only applies to Temer and Pishtim is speaking about a small beged that's only 3 fingers by 3 fingers. But if you have a larger beged that's 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, that would include other fabrics. Rav Papa doesn't have to say that, because Rav Papa says that the halacha of Tzemer and Pishtim is a halacha that's exclusive to Tzeras. It has nothing to do with Tumas Shrotzim. And Tumas Shrotzim is unlimited. Any beged, any size, would also have a Kabbalah Tumah, because when we're trying to learn Tzemer and Pishtim from Nega Tzeras, it's not teaching us anything about Tumas Shrotzim, which is totally unlimited. It's telling us something about the halacha of Klayim. Frek the Gemara, why in the world would I need to learn that Klayim is referring to Tzemer and Pishtim? Why would I need to learn that from Nega? It says it black and white by Klayim. Klayim edik sivvei, lo silba shabbos, Tzemer and Pishtim yachtov. So why do I need a limud from Nega Tzeras to tell me that Shabbos, the issue of Shabbos is Tzemer and Pishtim? The Torah comes right out and says it in the Parsha of Tzeras. So I don't need a limud from another place. So if the Gemara Sol Kedai Techamina, I would have thought Hanimili Derech Levisha. We should have really learned this Gemara yesterday, and we're going to soon see why. Because it says Sol Kedai Techamina Hanimili Derech Levisha. Where does it only Tzemer and Pishtim? That's only if you're wearing it like a proper clothing. You're putting on a coat, you're putting on a shirt, you're wearing it properly. Abu B'Hallah, but if you just put it on you, you don't actually wear it. Maybe call Trey Mini Asher. Any 2 mini would be Asher. That doesn't make any sense. Where you're really benefiting from the keli. You're totally benefiting from the klayim. Nevertheless, Omrit, we're saying it's still limited to Tzemer and Pishtim in Midiach Minilai. Halah, which you're benefiting so much less. So the svara is you shouldn't be chayiv as much. Like Holshkein, surely that should only apply to Tzemer and Pishtim. Zok Gemara, April Fools. El Rav Papa Badusihi. Rav Papa's whole halacha is an April Fool's joke, because Avada, it's not logical to say that you need Negoim to teach us that Shabbos only applies to Tzemer and Pishtim. The Torah says it beferish by the Parsha of Shabbos that what it means is to outlaw a combination of Tzemer and Pishtim. Rav Nachman B'Yitzchak Amar, he has another approach. Af kol. So again, we're going back to that same af kol that the Rabbi Shmuel said at the top of Chafavim Beis. Just like by nega tzaras, it only applies to tzemer pishtim, so too something else only applies to tzemer pishtim. We don't want to apply it to Tumah Shrotzim because we want to say at this point that Tumah Shrotzim applies to everything. So what are we learning the halacha of tzemer and pishtim to? Lasuya tzitzis, to tell us that tzitzis, you're only mechuyev to put tzitzis on a beged that's made out of either tzemer or pishtim. If you have a beged that's made out of any other fabric, you don't have to put tzitzis on it. I'm sorry?
Yes, what does Badusa mean?
Badusa, I think, means either a mistake. I think it means a mistake. Let's see what how the art scroll teaches it. Fiction. He calls it a fiction. So it's wrong.
So
it's a mistake.
I just want to know, Dave, where does that rank on your list? Is that worse than Chasuri Mechsura or better?
No, there's almost nothing worse than the Surya Mechzer.
Okay.
You don't see this. You don't see this too often, actually.
Badusa, that the Gemara is just like
Actually,
saying,
it's the first time I've ever seen it.
so it's got to be an April Fool's joke.
What? So he was joking. I'm just kidding. Is that what he's saying?
I don't know, but I once heard a story of a big Rosh Yeshiva who said shir on Purim. And it was a beautiful Lomdish shir. It wasn't funny. It wasn't Purimdik. It was all based on answering a very, very schwer Rambam. And then at the end of the whole shir, he says, "There's no such Rambam." April Fools. So I'm not sure. Okay, so up to Halak Gemara Balter. So it's Lasuya Tzitzis to tell us that tzitzis only applies, the only type of begodim that need tzitzis are tzitzis that are made out of tzemer and pishtim. In fact, to Gemara, tzitzis behedyiksiv. I don't need a pasuk for that either. I don't need a limit from nega for that because it says loisil b'shabbos tzemer and pishtim. And then right after that, it says uksiv gedilim tasalacha. So from the semichas, we learn that the gedilim tasalacha is also referring only to a beged of tzemer and pishtim. So Rava learns that from the tzemer and pishtim in the pasuk, it's not teaching you a halacha by tzitzis as far as what type of fabric requires tzitzis to put on them. Rather, the tzemer and pishtim that we're learning from Shabbos to tzitzis is only addressing the type of strings that you're allowed to use. So I would have felt like Rava that really all begodim, no matter what they're made out of, require tzitzis, and the limud from Shabbos is only about what type of strings will work. The Rava asked a steer in Psukim. It says Hakanov min kanaf. It says the Lashon HaPasuk is, we say in Krishma, also of tzitzis al kanaf dem le'raisham, v'nosnu al tzitzis hakanaf psil tchelas. So from Hakanaf means min kanaf. It seems to tell us that the tzitzis should be made of the same fabric that the beged is made out of. But then it says, but then we have a limud from Shames that it's supposed to be tzemer and pishtim. So the question is, what are your tzitzis supposed to be made out of? Are they supposed to be made out of the same min that your beged is made out of? Or across the board, are they always supposed to be made out of either tzemer or pishtim? So the only way we can favor that stira is we could say, tzemer or pishtim, poitrin ben biminin ben shalom biminin. No matter what fabric you use for your beged, if you use tzemer and pishtim, that's a silver bullet, and for sure the tzitzis are good. But shar minon, if you want to have tzitzis made of some other fabric, then the minon poitrin, they'll work if you use them on a fabric, on a beged that's also the same material. But shalom minon ain't poitrin. But you cannot use any other fabric to pater tzitzis for a different fabric. So I can't use maybe polyester strings on the cotton beged. Well, cotton's not a cotton's pishtim, but I can't use polyester strings on the silk beged. If I have a silk beged, I could use silk strings. If I have a polyester beged, I can use polyester strings. But if I have a silk or a polyester beged, I can use tzitzis that are made out of tzemer and pishtim because they're a silver bullet. They work everywhere. So Sokadat Chaminah Kederova. Without the afkol. Yes.
I'm not sure if polyester is a good example because there's the whole
synthetic.
What?
It's synthetic.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably. I was thinking the same thing, but I couldn't think of any other type of fabric. I was scratching my brain. I was like, I thought of silk. but I
Yes,
ran out of materials.
Silk is probably a good example.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think you're right. So Gemara Kidarava. I would, if it wasn't for the bkol of the Ton of Reb Shmuel, I might have thought to learn like Rava and say that all fabrics require tzitzis. Kamash Malon, that no, not all fabrics require tzitzis. Ton of Reb Shmuel is telling us bkol. Not only do we know that a beged is only temer and pishtim regarding tzaras, a beged is only considered a beged if it's temer and pishtim regarding the chiyuv to put tzitzis on it. Amar Rav Acha bar Rava, Rav Ashi, Rav Acha bar Rava was talking to Rav Ashi. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, according to the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, my shnoch. So now, what we've done now is we were explaining the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, and we were saying that the Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel is telling us that how do we know that the mitzvah of tzitzis only applies to a beged that's either made out of tzemer or pishtim? We know it from the halacha of tzaras. So frek the Gemara, frek Rav Acha bar Rava, he asked Rav Ashi the question. According to the Tana Devei Shmuel, like we explained now, my shnoi liyin tuma, the marbi sharbegodim, we said that tumas sheretz, we said, is not compared anymore to nega and tumas shrotzim. Any type of fabric will become tummy, no matter what the fabric was made out of. If dead sheretz touch it, it would be tummy, because that's how we're now learning in the Devei Rabbi Shmuel. The chsiv oy beged, and you know it from the word oy beged that it says in the parsha of shrotzim. Well, in Hakanami, by tzitzis also, leimel Rabbi Shar Begodim. Let's also say, I'll make a good argument to prove that even by tzitzis it should apply to all different types of fabrics. Why is that? Because it says in the pasuk, "Me'asher techasaba." What does the pasuk say? It says, "Gedilim tasalacha al arba kanfos ksuscha asher techasaba." Asher techasaba is a very general term. Anything that you wear, you have to put tzitzis on. So the same way from oy beged, which is a general term, you held that it teaches you that by shrotzim it applies to all begodim. The fact that it says asher techaseh by the parsha of tzitzis should also be very inclusive and include the chiyuv tzitzis for all begodim. So asher techaseh, no, the limit of asher techaseh we cannot use to teach us that it applies to all fabrics, because we need it for a very important lesson. That's coming to tell us that even a blind man who cannot see the tzitzis, he can't do the re'isa moisai. Even a blind man has a chiyuv to put tzitzis onto his beged. Titania, we look at the brisa, re'isa moisai. Prat luchsus laila. That tells you that a beged that's designed to be worn at night, and we'll see exactly what it is. It's a mechlokes rishonim. But a beged that's designed to be worn at night, such as pajamas, that does not have a chiyuv tzitzis. You're saying from a re'isa moisai it excludes pajamas? Maybe the pasuk is trying to exclude the beged of a blind person from having a chiyuv of tzitzis. Asher techasaba, like we said earlier, is inclusive. That will be inclusive of a ksasuma. So we do know there is a requirement that you have to see it, and you can't say that that's to exclude a ksasuma because we want to include a ksasuma because of the pasuk of Asher techasaba. So we'll say re'isa moisai is prat ksus laila. In fact, the Gemara, I don't understand. You have a choice between including a ksus laila and excluding a ksusuma, or vice versa. Why did you decide to exclude a ksus laila but include a suma? Maybe you should do it exactly the opposite. Umar roy is l'rabis suma will hoiti ksus laila. So tomorrow, ma'arbani ksusuma sheyeshna beria. The ksus of a suma, even though he can't see it, but its beged could be seen. Other people could see it, so it would still qualify under the words re'isa moisai because it is seeable. And I'm excluding a ksus that only comes out at night. Nobody can see it. And that's why, if I have a choice of including one in the mitzvah of tzitzis and excluding one, I would include the suma in the mitzvah of tzitzis, and I will exclude a beged for nighttime from the mitzvah of tzitzis. Frek the Gemara, the Emel rabbis shar begodim. Maybe the Asher techasaba is not even talking about a suma. Going back to our question, maybe Asher techasaba should tell you that all types of begodim, even if they're not semer and pishtim, should also have a chiyuv for tzitzis. So tomorrow mistavra koybet semer upishtim. We're talking about a beged of semer and pishtim in the parsha tzitzis, like it says, "Lasil b'shat semer pishtim uksuv v'dil tasalacha." So we are talking about semer pishtim. So if we're talking about semer pishtim, marbet semer pishtim, it makes sense that we're going to be inclusive of other begodim that are semer pishtim, such as the begodim of a summa that are made out of semer pishtim. But koybet semer pishtim, marbet shar begodim. You want to suggest that we're talking about semer and pishtim, and the ribui should be marbe other types of fabrics? That's not logical. It makes sense to stay closer to home, and staying with the same type of fabric is closer to home. And that's why we'll use our shetachasaba for a summa and not for tzemer and pishtim. So now at the end of the sugya, we have now a whole new option in the Devei Rabbi Shmuel. At first, we thought the Devei Rabbi Shmuel held exclusively that only begodim of tzemer and pishtim could be mekabel tumah. And now the Gemara at the end changes it all around and says that the Tumah Sheretz has no connection whatsoever to Tzaras, and the restriction of Tzaras only applying to Tzemer and Pishtim has no bearing whatsoever on Tumah Sheretz. And in fact, Tumah Sheretz, every single type of fabric could become Tameh, and every size down to 3 fingers by 3 fingers. And what we are learning from Tumas Tzaras about Tzemer and Pishtim is we're learning a limud to the mitzvah of tzitzis that it only applies to a fabric that's made out of either tzemer or pishtim. If you have polyester, if you have a talis cotton that's polyester, you don't put tzitzis on it. So then it's not a talis cotton. It's just now a square peg into the hole of it. So now I want to talk a little bit about the mitzvah of tzitzis, because we say that ksus loila does not have a chiv tzitzis. Rashi defines ksus loila as ksus hamayuchad leleilas d'lei nechayiv. So it has nothing to do with when you're wearing it. It's all about what it's designed to be used for. So according to Rashi, if you wore your pajamas during the day, you would still not have a chiv tzitzis. So let's have a look. So he says a bunch of interesting things. He says it's actually a big machlokes rishonim. Rashi and the Rosh learn that the Torah of Ksus Laila is all about the beged itself. Is it pajamas? Pajamas are patur from tzitzis because they're designed to be worn at night. And normal clothing that are designed to be worn by day, those are chiv tzitzis. Now, did it ever happen in the history of mankind that someone actually got out of bed when it was light? Sure. So that means people wear their pajamas by day too. So why aren't Big Day Lila automatically also considered a Big Day Yoim? Because the fact of the matter is, people get up even after it gets light. So on that, Chazon says it all depends, according to Rashi and the Rosh, it all depends on what the main purpose of the clothing are for. If the main purpose of the clothing are for nighttime, even though you do wear them during the day, it doesn't matter, they'll be patur from tzitzis. That's Rashi and the Rosh. The Rambam argues.
Time out, 1 second. Sorry, the Chazon Ish's question is on the flip side too. Have you ever seen people wear day clothing at night?
That's correct.
Right. So then why should you should be patur also for?
But the pajamas question is much more fun. Okay. The Rambam learns differently. He says it has nothing to do with which piece of clothing it is. He holds by day you're chayiv and by night you're patur, no matter what you're wearing. Any clothing would be patur from tzitzis at night, and any clothing would be chayiv and tzitzis in the day, which means if you wear your pajamas during the day, you have to wear tzitzis. Now, the Ramah says, halacha, it's a bezoin for mitzvahs to sleep with your talis cotton. You shouldn't sleep with your talis cotton. But the minig, Dr. Ramah, is to sleep with the talis cotton because the Arizal said that there's an Indian to sleep with your talis cotton. So the Eshel of Ram says, if you want to be makbid on the Arizal's Indian to sleep with the talis cotton, you have to make sure to wear the same talis cotton that you wear during the day. You shouldn't have a special talis cotton for the night. Because if you have a special talis cotton for the night, then you're not Yosy the mitzvah according to anybody. According to the Rambam, there is no mitzvah at night.
So how do they make the bracha in the morning? They put on a different pair?
I guess so. Or they maybe they take it off from it, they put it back on. I don't know. That's a good question. But if you're going to wear a special pair of tzitzis that are night tzitzis, according to the Rambam, you're not chayiv anyway because it's night. And even according to Rashi, tzitzis that are designated only to be worn at night will also be a ksus laila. So in fact, you're not even being mekayim the mitzvah. So if you do want to be mekayim the rizal, you have to wear your day tzitzis. And Dovi's asking how you would make a bracha. I'm not sure.
No, the bracha that we do is you make on Telis Gadol.
Yeah, but what about for someone who's makbid on their
About
Rizal,
who's
who doesn't have a
not
talis?
married. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Bachrim, Lubavitch Bachrim do that. They take it off and then you put it right back on, and that's what they do, and they make the bracha for a second. And they all sleep with their talis cotton on and wrapped around. It's a whole avodah.
There's also another interesting thing, and that is, are you allowed to put your tzitzis on your beged at night? Let's say you have you have a new talis and you want to put your tzitzis on, you want to twist your tzitzis, put them together. Are you allowed to do that at night? Since night is not as man tzitzis. So it's actually a machlekes achronim. But the Pri Megadim holds, since it's a beged that would be mechuyev by day, avada you could put your tzitzis on at night. The other shayla is, we learned earlier that the positioning of your ner Chanukah should be mismoil, and miyamin is the mezuzah, and there's a famous measure that says mezuzah mimin, v'ner Chanukah mismoil, u'balabayis im tali soy mitzuyetzes be'emtza. The balabayis is wearing his talis with the tzitzis in the middle, so he's surrounded with mitzvahs. So they ask, when do you light Chanukah ners? At night. At night, there is no longer a mitzvah of tzitzis. So according to Rashi, it's not shver, because your ksus yoim, your talis that you're wearing by night, has a chiv and tzitzis. But according to the Rambam, that there's no chiv and tzitzis at night at all, what is the significance of the balabayis and talis with tzitzis be'emtza if in fact he's not being mekayim any mitzvah at the time? So that's really a litvish shayla, because a chassidus would understand. So you're not mekayim the mitzvah, put that talis. But that's what the Elvin spoke out. Okay.
Yosy.
Yes.
Ksus Laila, if you hold that it's not tzitzis at all when you put them on, so why isn't it Balter?
I don't know. Putting tzitzis on a beged and you're not mechuyev, and why wouldn't that be a problem of Balter? Maybe it will be. I don't know. It's a very good question. I don't know the answer.
And you know, polyester begadim, people are known to make talis katanim out of polyester for sports and things like that. Why do people bother if polyester is not mechuyev in tzitzis?
Well, it's not mechuyev in tzitzis according to one sheet in the Gemara, but according to Rava, it is mechuyev in tzitzis. I'm not sure who we paskin like, but according to Rava, every fabric is mechuyev in tzitzis.
Does a talis have to mean a talis? The talis we wear, isn't it like a cloak as well?
It could be anything. Like even
no. What I'm saying is, outside, you're outside. You put your coat on because it's winter.
I understand, but it says mitzuyetzes. Why would you need tzitzis?
Oh, it says mitzuyetzes.
Like the Medrash is trying to say that a person is surrounded by mitzvahs. That mitzvah of tzitzis, is not surrounding you because it's not active at the time. But again, Chassidus holds it's a cheftish mitzvah, even though now not technically being kind of mitzvah. The other shayla they ask is, we know that if you use tzemer and pishtim for tzitzis, even though it's shatnez, from the smiches of lasil b'shatnez and v'dilim tazacha, we learn that the mitzvah of tzitzis will be doiche the isser of shatnez. So Rabbi Elvin asked, who did he ask from? CHAIM ZVI LEBOVITZ, he says, ask the kasha. He says, we know there's a rule of mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. If mitzvahs are lav lehenis nitnu, and we know that by shatnez, if you're just holding something and you have no benefit from it, there's no issue shatnez. Issue shatnez is only if you're having a no from it. So if you hold mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu, so why is it that we need a special pasuk to tell us that by tzitzis there's an exemption to the issue of shatnez? I don't need a pasuk. I would know it anyway. Mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. And there should never be a problem of wearing tzitzis that are shatnez with your beged, because you're not having a no. Mitzvahs are not a no. That's what CHAIM ZVI LEBOVITZ decided. And I'll tell you over his teretz. I don't understand it. Maybe someone here can explain it to me, but I'll tell you the words, and hopefully you can help me understand it. CHAIM ZVI LEBOVITZ says the only time you say mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu is if it's a mitzvah chiyuvis. For instance, eating matzah. There's a chiyuv to eat matzah. That you say the eating of the matzah is not lehenis nitnu. However, where there's a mitzvah kiyumis, such as tzitzis, you don't have to wear tzitzis. If you happen to have a beged, then you have to put tzitzis on it. But there's no mitzvah to go out of your way to buy tzitzis. So there, you do not say the rule of mitzvahs lav lehenis nitnu. So I do understand the distinction, but I don't understand the svara. Why is it that just because it's a mitzvah kiyumis, that's not called mitzvahs lav lehensnit? So I'm just throwing it out to the oilam. Maybe someone has an idea.
What's another example of a mitzvah kiyumis? It's an option? Is that what that means?
A mezuzah is an option as well, right? If you don't have a house, you don't have to put a mezuzah up on your door. But if you do have a house and you have a doorpost, you got to put a mezuzah up.
So does that mean, so in other
Or
words,
eating matzah the rest of Pesach. You don't have to eat matzah. If you want to have bread, the only type you can have is matzah.
So learning Torah is the same thing? I can't have a noah from it because it's a chiyuv?
It's not that you can't have a noah. The lav, it's not called you're having a noah.
Is that a problem? Akiva.
Which one, the learning or the enjoying? What are you asking on?
Although the Achronim tell us that the part and partial of the mitzvah of learning Torah is tainig. So it's not pshat that Torah is the mitzvah, and then as an aside you have a noah. The mitzvah of Torah itself is enjoying it. That's part of the mitzvah.
I don't understand the issue with matzah. By matzah, we're specifically told that we have to have a desire for it. You're not.
It has to be b'tei oven.
Right, and by the afikomen, right? If you don't have a appetite left, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah. So there you're required to enjoy it, aren't you?
Even if you're required to enjoy it, there's still the concept of mitzvah lav lehensnit, and therefore
but if you don't enjoy, if you don't have an appetite for it, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah.
So the question is, what does it mean mitzvah lav lehensnit? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not.
Right. What is the definition?
Yeah. It means I think what it means is it's not designed to give you a no, and the mitzvah is not a no. The eating of the bread might be the no, but the mitzvah itself is not something that we consider you have a no from.
Yes.
I'll have to do homework.
Understand.
Now they're bringing that up. There's different thoughts I didn't think of even.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, the example you're talking about, a mitzvah kiyumis with matzah, I don't think that's a good example because the mitzvah to eat matzah is only the first night. You eat it the rest of the yontiv.
Right. So the matzah the first night is a mitzvah chiyuvis, and the mitzvah the rest of the week would probably be mitzvah chiyuvis.
No, it's no mitzvah at all. It's only yontiv maybe, but it's not a mitzvah.
That's true.
You're right.
I agree. You're right.
Whoa.
It's not like a mezuzah. It's not like a mezuzah or tzitzis where I have to do a mitzvah if I want to wear tzitzis. There's no mitzvah.
Shivas yamim techel matzahs? What does that mean?
If you're going to eat, if you're going to eat bread, you have to eat matzah.
Right.
But you don't get a mitzvah for eating the matzah.
You don't get a matzah of maybe the chiyuv of eating matzah.
There's got to be a mitzvah.
There is a mitzvah. Of
you telling me all those calories were for nothing?
No, the matzah was okay. The knedlach was the kiyumis.
Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Zog the Gemara weiter. Omar Abaye, Reb Shimon ben Elazar. So if you remember Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he was the shita that said that Abaye quoted as saying. Let's look him up because he started this whole sugya. He was the one who said that kalayachim ne'etz. You cannot use not tummy except for pishna. So let's see the Gemara over here. It was at the bottom of Chavav Amud Aleph. So the Gemara says at the bottom of Chavav Amud Aleph, Tanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Emer Kol Yechim Ne'etz, Ein Boi Mishum Shalosh Al Shalosh. She doesn't have Tumas Begadim, and therefore, since it's not Tamei Masachim Boi, because we know anything that grows from the ground can be used as Chach as long as it's not Makabel Tumah. Chutz Mi Pishton, where even though it grows from the ground, Rashi says, according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, you may not use it for Schach. Now we're going to get into a little new sugya here very soon. David Zolti asked yesterday, Pishton is not eights, right? I think David asked that question yesterday. Is David here? David left. But it's Pishton is not eights. And the Gemara actually has that same kasha, and we're going to get to it soon. But let's first see what the Gemara says. The Gemara says over here, Amar Abaye, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, the Sumchus Amud Over Echad. Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and now Sumchus agrees to the same halacha. And Rashi says that's referring to that something that can be metama through Nagoyim, you cannot use for Schach. Anything that could contain Tumas Nagoyim may not be used as Schach. Reb Shimon ben Lazar had Amrin. Reb Shimon ben Lazar, we just learned, right? He said chutz mi pishtan. He didn't say chutz mi beged pishtan. So let's see Rashi. Had Amrin chutz. It says kol yechim neit is not metamet hamas begadim. A and B is, and if you call it not tamei, you could use chach except for pishtan. Like Amrin chutz mi beged pishtan. The wording of Reb Shimon ben Lazar was not to exclude a beged of pishtan. It was just a blob of pishtan. Mashma avagav blob beged, even if it's not a beged, shalai nitfe, it wasn't spun yet. Kagoin unin, it's just like a blob of pishtan that has not yet been spun or woven or anything. Or nitfe b'lenerag, ein misachin, you still can't use it for shchach, which is a huge chiddush. Hoil umetame b'negoyim. Avagav lo metame b'shrotzim. So there's a special chiddush that a piece of pishtan, even before it's been developed at all, in its very premature stages, where it wouldn't be considered a beged, it could still become tamei because of a nega, and for that reason, you may not use it for schach. So Zok Gemara, where did Sumchus say the same thing? Reb Shimon Lazar had Amrin Sumchus the Tanya Sumchus Omer Sichacha b'tavi. If you used merely spun threads of pishtan, psula the sukkah is possible mipnei shemetame b'negoyim, because spun threads are metame b'negoyim. So you see that Sumchus agrees to the principle of Reb Shimon ben Lazar that anything that will be metame b'negoyim will be possible to be used for schach. Command ki haitan. There's a question if this command is saying, are we looking for someone who holds like Sumchus, or are we looking for somebody who holds like Abaye? Because really Sumchus and Abaye are saying two different things. Sumchus is saying that once the pishtan is spun, at that point it's no longer kosher for schach and it's metame b'negoyim. Abaye actually said something stronger than Shimon ben Lazar. Abaye said even before it's spun, even if it's rough pishtan, it also is metame b'negoyim, and therefore you cannot use it for schach. So let's see what the brisa that we're proving this from is. Itnan, shasi ve'erev, if you have thread, metame b'negoyim miyad, it would be metame b'negoyim miyad, because threads are metame, divrei Reb Meir. Now if we're going to learn pshat in the Gemara, that we're looking for support to Sumchus, Reb Meir is the support of Sumchus. Sumchus said a woven cloth is tamei, and Reb Meir says, in fact, even if it's just a thread, it's tamei. But Reb Yehuda goes further, and Reb Yehuda is going to show us that even if it's not spun, even if it's just a blob, he also holds that that's metame b'negoyim. That will support Abaye. Reb Yehuda Omer hashesi mishiyisla. If you have a shesi thread, it's after it became a thread, but it had to have been put in the oven and heated up so that it became white. And we're talking about tzemer right now. The erev miyad. And if it's the other, it's the whoop, but a wolf, it's the one is a thicker thread, one's a thinner thread. One thread you could see more because it's the length thread you see, and the thread that goes back and forth, that you don't see as well. So the erev miyad, the erev I think is a thicker thread, which is the lengthwise thread. That becomes tamei right away. As soon as you spin it, even before it's put into the oven to heat up and become white. So it seems like the way they did it is they took the wool, they spun it and made it into thread first, and then they put it into the oven to whiten it. So they didn't whiten the raw material until they actually made it into a thread. That's by tzemer. But unin shel pishtan, by flax, v'shiyas labner, even if it's not a thread at all, even if it's just a blob of pishtan that you put into the oven to whiten, that itself would already make it be mekabel tumah, and that already would disqualify it from being used as schach. So let's just see the Mishnah. It's a small Mishnah. Anything that comes out of wood, you cannot light with it. The only thing you can use, the only type of wood derivative that you can use is pishtan. So at first glance, it seems like pishtan is a yotzim ne'etz. Tosfos holds pishtan is not a yotzim ne'etz. It's a zera, it's a seed. Another halacha is anything that comes out of wood. Now the halacha is we all know that if you have a covering, an oil, a roof over a mace, anything that comes under that oil will become tummy. But the oil itself does not become tummy. But if the oil is made out of pishtan, then the oil itself also becomes tummy. And of course, we're only talking about if it's not mechuber lakarka, if it's not built in. Anything built in would not become tamei anyway. I'll save this Gemara for tomorrow, simply because I want David to be here, because David was actually asking me about this yesterday, that pishtan is not an eitz. So I want him to be here for this Gemara. So I guess we'll stop here. So we should have a wonderful, successful, profitable, and happy day.
Yes, I wanted to do a Meiser Rav, if I can.
Please.
When I was in yeshiva in Baltimore, so I remember I had a Shabbos coat, and it was very long, and it had a very large slit in the back. So I didn't know if it was chayv and tzitzis or not. So I took it to Rabbi Heinemann, and I asked him if the coat was chayv and tzitzis. So he looked at it, whatever, and then he pulled out some threads from the material, and he lit it on fire, and he smelted it, and he said, "No, it's not chayv and tzitzis."
Not what?
It wasn't chayv.
Because of the fabric that it was made out of?
Seems.
So I guess he was trying to see if it was either made out of wool or linen.
Yeah.
And he was able to tell from the smell of the burning fibers what the fibers were made out of.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he didn't trust the label?
No.
And what was it? Do you remember what you thought? It was a wool coat? Or was it was a tweed, some sort of a tweed, but it was ostensibly wool. I mean, I don't like, that's. I don't remember. Winter coat or raincoat?
Yeah, like a Shabbos coat. Like
I David like them.
Maybe you wanted to see if it was polyester.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know
well,
exactly.
Polyester would have melted.
Right, exactly.
Right. So I don't know. I can't tell you 100% what type of fabric he was looking for, but that's how he determined whether.
Litvische kapotes would be mechuyev and tzitzis, and that's why the inner corner is rounded.
Right, but he didn't tell me to round the corner.
Yeah.
You know what?
That would make you Hasidish, and I don't know if in Baltimore that would have been permitted.
You know what they say? What a kapota has in common with an ambulance?
Oh boy!
They both have a slit in the back with two doors that can open, and they both house sick people.
Okay, just to remind everybody, coming up tonight on the ABC network, following Magnum PI. At 7:30.
What time is the tailgate show?
Yeah, 7:30 is the Rov's drasha. At 8:40.
I thought it was 7:45.
No, 7:30. 7:30 is the Rov's
7:45 to 8:15. I thought you said. No.
No. 7:30 to about 8 o'clock, 8:15. Then at 8:45 is Reb Daniel Finkelshir. At 10:10 is Tseil Mad with Reb Mordechai Appel, and he's going to talk about Agudah. He does have a daily Zoom on his own channel if you really want to hear his insight on his Agudah, which is amazing.
But we need a discussion group right after the Shabbos Agudah drasha to you need the peanut gallery to comment on it. Usually,
who's serving the kugel?
We can review it. We need that. Otherwise, all the comments that everybody's holding in the whole time during the drasha, we have to have a forum in which to share.
Yes, is that over kugel and cholent or?
Well, you have you have. I know Yosy, you probably aren't aware of it, but there is how in class you used to pass notes.
So that's the chat feature.
The chat teaser here, while you're giving share.
So do me a favor, make sure that the key people, we won't mention names, have that ability to chat, and make sure they don't have the ability to private chat.
Well, I gave Pesach the numbers, and I think the only one who will be unmuted is Pesach. Mm-hmm. So we can hear the Rav and we can hear Pesach. He said he would give forward the information to Reb David Hofstetter.
Did you get any key commitments on people to join?
What for the
like Reb David Hofstetter? Like we need, in Reese, like we need to have like key commitments of people who, and they're not allowed to join anonymously. We have to be able to expose their phone numbers.
Yeah. Well, I know Rabbi Reese is from last night, and I changed his name. So when he was giving the shir, it said Rabbi Reese speaking from his house. Now, Rabbi Reese didn't call in from Zoom. He just used the phone number.
Right. Are you able to
Akiva was wondering
edit
if that's
their phone
why-
number and publicize who it is for us?
I can, because as a host, you can change the name
Right.
Is Rabbi Lowe's drasha on Zoom or a teleconference?
on Zoom.
Akiva
And
was
his
wondering-
picture is there. When he gave his drasha for the women, they put Rabbi Lowy. I put Rabbi Lowy in the center. And it was very cute yesterday. You didn't hear it, but I had it on mute the whole time. And then at the end, I said, okay, I'm going to unmute everybody, and it'll give everyone the opportunity to say thank you to the Rav for the drasha. And I unmuted, and it was beautiful. Everyone said, thank you. You know,
You did
with-
the
you
last
didn't have- you
time.
didn't
The
have
first
Brenda
Akiva-
Westbrook?
Yeah.
yeah.
Hi, Rabbi Lowy. How are you?
Yeah. Akiva,
Yes.
did you? I don't know if you saw. You don't have to say, but Debbie said that at the end of the